Thanks a lot for staying with us here at CNN News 18. You're watching the biggest exclusive tonight. I'm Ridhima Bhatnagar. Post the backlash after the Hindi Diwas in Karnataka, the Bommai government now seems to be wanting to make some amends to try and woo the Kannadigas. What we're now understanding is the Bommai government has said that the government will bring a law to make Kannada mandatory in the state. The Kannada Language Comprehensive Development Bill is aimed at introducing Kannada as the medium of instruction in institutions and creating job reservations for Kannadigas. The government has gone one step ahead and said that companies that do not give first preference to locals or to Kannadigas in jobs will not be eligible for SOPs and incentives. But Karnataka isn't really the only state. Haryana has 75% reservation for local youth in private jobs. Andhra Pradesh, in fact, was the first one to introduce a quota like this. Madhya Pradesh state government has also promised 70% jobs to locals in the private sector. So is this really a need of the hour, or will this in fact be a big deterrent for job seekers as well as employers?
All the people who are selling Pani Puri, they are North Indians. Pani Puri and Pan Vada, it is their culture. You see, we are Karnataka people, self-pride people.
So what really is this proposal as far as the Bommai government is concerned? Let's break down all those details and also talk to you about what it is proposing. It is proposing that Kannada should be the state's official language. It is also saying that all government orders should be in Kannada only. So, for example, nameplates and boards across the state will only be in the local language, that is Kannada. What essentially this is doing is, which means the emphasis is given to teaching functional Kannada as well. Authorities empowered to ensure implementation. And as I pointed out when I started the show, there's a diktat for corporates as well. Corporates not preferring Kannadigas to be penalized. Corporates won't be eligible for incentives or for SOPs. But as I said, because this is a state that is known as our IT hub, it is compared to the Silicon City, what will this move actually mean for corporates? Let's break down those details as well. Over 21 lakh people employed in the software industry. If a diktat like this does come forward, what will this mean for job seekers as well as employers? Jobs for local quota might keep out the talent, because the criticism coming in is that we thought skill is the only thing that you need to actually beat the pack. The IT industry may also now want to shift their businesses. Where will they go? That will be a huge logistical hurdle as well. This might also now push companies to work from home. They might want to go back to that system. It more importantly might also impact the ease of doing business in the state. But also this will spell disaster for private investors and companies wanting to set base in Karnataka. This will also lead to local versus non-local debate. Let me first bring in our newsmaker of the evening, someone who has been extremely vocal as far as this proposal is concerned. Mohandas Pai, Chairman, Aaron Capital Partners, also the former CEO of Infosys. Sir, thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here on CNN News 18. You've been pretty vocal as far as this proposal of the Basavaraj Bommai government is concerned. What do you feel?
Look, I like the Bommai government's focus on creating jobs for people of the state. I think every state government should focus on creating jobs, making sure employment opportunities are plentiful for the people of the state, because jobs for young people should be the number one priority of the government.
Sure.
And to get the jobs, they must have good investment policies, and they should get many companies coming and investing to create jobs. So they have to create the infrastructure, and they have to market themselves to do it, which is very good, which I hope they will do much more. They're doing, but they got to do much more. But when it comes to incentives and SOPs and all that, they have to be very careful, because they must remember that all the people in the state, irrespective of the language they speak, are paying taxes. Taxes are not coming from one part of the population. Everybody is paying taxes. Second, when industries come here, they want to hire the best people possible, irrespective of gender, irrespective of background. I don't think employees discriminate on grounds of gender or background, language, or whatever it is. Third, it is true that when you come here, you must try to employ as many local people as possible. All that is agreed.
Correct.
So if you have any incentives and stops, you should not create a discriminatory policy that only if you employ so much, we'll give you the stop. That is very wrong. What they can do is to create an incentive policy which says, if you employ a Kannadiga or a person who's domiciled here for a number of years, we will give you so many rupees of the land cost for each employment. Or we'll give you a monthly grant of so and so rupees for 2 years, 3 years. They can do that. That will be interesting. For example, if I employ 100 people, 60 people are from the local community. For those 60, you give me some money. And you give it to everybody, irrespective of who it is, and is applicable for a particular section of society who are locals here, because these are the people who will be the majority of the population. That is fine. Sure. But don't create structures where you say, if you don't employ only these people, will not give you any subsidy, with SOPs, will not give you an incentive. That is totally wrong. It must be structured in a manner where you achieve your purpose. At the same time, don't drive away the flexibility and the ability of employers to hire whom they want.
But sir, the argument here is then, and this is what, people who are favoring the proposal by the Bommai government is saying, why are you actually singling out a state like Karnataka? This is not the first time that we're talking about reservations as far as the private sector is concerned. Many other states have also done it. So what if Karnataka also goes forward?
Look, that is a very specious argument. Why are you criticizing us? We are all citizens of Karnataka. We live here. This is our government. This is our state. Political parties come and go in government. We live here. We are the people who bring investment. We are the people who bring jobs here, right? We are the people who recommend to others. When people come here, they ask us, is it worth investing? We all support the state. So we have a legitimate right to be critical and to tell them, do it this way. Still, please understand, nobody is objecting to state government creating an incentive structure or a structure to promote locals for jobs. I don't think anybody is objecting. All they're saying is do it in a proper manner where people do not feel discriminated and you do not force people to follow a particular line. You incentivize them. If land is being given available, give it to everybody who comes here. You should not put restriction only if you employ. What you say is you have to pay dash amount of money for land. For every job you give it to a local defined in a criteria, I'll give you so much rupees off. That is fine. And if you employ somebody who's a local, we'll give you so much of grant every month for 2 years. That is fine. Do that. That's the right way to do it. Please understand what people are saying. And remember, if you create discriminatory policy, people will go to court. If people go to court and take a stay from the court, with the court may be willing to grant because prima facie discriminatory, what happens to your policy? It doesn't work at all, right? And you get a bad name unnecessarily. Why are you trying to get a bad name unnecessarily by doing some very ill thought out policies when you can achieve the same objective or job generation for people? See, jobs should be created by skilling people who are locals, by giving them good education, giving them scholarships so they are, fit for the job. That's the way to do it. And if you're incentivizing people to employ local people by giving them certain incentives, that's the way to do it. Do that. That will not be discriminatory. That will be fine because, you're trying to use your resources to promote your people of your state, and that's perfectly fine. You cannot say don't employ anybody from outside, don't do that. I think they got to structure it in a very nice manner. That's the point.
I agree with the point that you're making, that this actually could, bring in sense of fear and paranoia among job seekers, employers as well, because a major chunk of the people don't necessarily have to be locals. So how do you then see this actually pushing back job seekers?
No, it pushes back job seekers because, you must understand that we are one single country. We are not broken up into different parts for different laws. We are one single law, and the Constitution protects us and gives us the right of equality across all country, or across the state, across the country. So the courts hold it to be discriminated. What is the point of having a policy which could be struck down by the courts? So Haryana has done that and created unnecessary negative publicity for Haryana. and I'm told that people have gone to court. I don't know much about it. People can go to court and the court may stay it. What is the point of doing a policy which becomes a matter of litigation? Do it properly. Yes, you must incentivize local employment. There's no doubt about it. Please do it. And that's a good policy. You must kill people, local people.
Sure.
You must kill everything. All that is okay. Don't restrict the right of an employer to employ anybody of their choice based on merit. Yes, there must be equal opportunity. You must not discriminate. That's a good policy. We should do all that, right? But don't create this kind of negative things which spoil your name. See, Karnataka is the leading state, one of the leading states for employment in India. In Maharashtra, when the Shiv Sena and other parties used to, create a ruckus because they say you should employ only so and so, everybody is upset, right? It created a bad name for Maharashtra. Yeah. We don't want the bad name here. And please remember, all global companies come to Bangalore. When they come to Bangalore, they want to recruit anybody from India, any place who meet their requirements. So they don't want any restrictions, any harassment by a government official, any rent seeking by anybody.
True.
You bring in such rules, then the inspectors will come harass you. And we have a very corrupt system in the state. They'll come and harass you. Nobody wants all of them to come and harass you. They rather say, I'll not come here. So why do all these negative things when they can do things properly? Think about it, do it properly. That's all people are saying.
But here, this is where the other argument is that this entire proposal is because this is a matter of pride as far as Kannadigas are concerned. Why shouldn't locals be given the priority?
Look, I think the government is ill-advised in the language. Tell me, how do you increase content in the Kannada language so people can have a lot of content? The problem with Indian language is government has not invested in translating the world's knowledge into Kannada. Where is the content in Kannada? Science is in English. How do the Japanese educate the children? By translating the world's knowledge into Japanese so that the Japanese has the world's knowledge, the fingertip in their own language. Government has not done that. Let them spend 100, 200 crores a year in translating all the knowledge of the world into Kannada so that a lot of content is available. So people don't suffer for want of content. If they don't study English, do all that. There's a lot of work that they have to do. They've not done it all these years. And you give respect to your language by investing in the language. What is the total investment you make in the Kannada language? How many scholars are there in classical Kannada? Kannada has become a classical language. What have you done to promote the language? How much money you spend on culture? How much money you spend on creating, cultural artifacts all across? Very little. True. What is the point of talking loosely? Have a structured approach. You must promote Kannada. You must promote your local culture, local languages. That's the right thing to do, but do it in a proper manner, not in a ham-handed manner like this. And when will pride come? Pride will come to us as Kannadigas, where we get the best of skill development, highest quality education, right? How many, high quality educational institutions are there? What is the investment in higher education? What is the quality of government schools? Less and less children are studying in government schools. I got data, only 40% of children in class 1 are in government schools. 60% have gone to private schools from 50% 10 years back. What is the government doing? Why is the quality of government school education not going up?
Okay.
Why are the quality of government education in the government colleges not going up? How much scholarship is given for people to study in top-notch institutions? What is the investment they're putting into R&D and research to improve the quality? These are important things by which you get pride.
Okay. Mr. Pai, always a pleasure speaking to you and having a very candid conversation with you. We appreciate you taking out the time and joining us here this evening on CNN News 18. Now, before I bring in my panel, we also thought this would be a good time to actually hear from what job seekers had to say about a proposal like this. Let's listen in.
You cannot force to learn the language and do the work in Karnataka because IT people are going, they can work anywhere, anytime.
इंडिया में रहते थे, हिंदुस्तान में रहते, हिंदी आया तो बस है उसके लिए. ऐसा तो अदर स्टेट में कई स्टेट है, केरला गया तो केरला की भाषा है, तमिलनाडु गया तो तमिलनाडु है. ऐसा थोड़ी होता है.
This is against the idea of India as a country and it is against our constitution. Imposing local languages in such a way is not a good idea at all.
If I'm not going to get preference or if there's going to be a bias in the work front as well, I don't think it is fair.
So the question that we're asking this evening is this Kannada push or this proposal by the Bommai government, what will this actually mean for job seekers as well as investment coming in the state? Let me me also now bring in our guest to take this discussion forward. We have spokesperson of Karnataka BJP, Mohan Vishwa. We have spokesperson of the Congress Party, Lavanya Balal. We also have senior journalist R.K. Upadhyay, and we have CEO of V Technologies, Chakku Vallappa. Good to have all of you on the broadcast with us. Mohan Vishwa, let me begin with you. Now, the argument that is coming in from critics like Mohandas Pai, even a lot of job seekers, they're saying, till date, we thought the only requirement to get a job was talent or merit. Why is that being taken away from us?
See, in fact, I do what Mr. MD said. The law which we are making is not the new demand which we have today. It is based on Sarojini Mahishi report, which was, analyzed and published way back. So as a part of it, one part of it, our CM has told in the recent assembly session that he is going to make, the Kannada language mandatory. It doesn't mean that when we make something mandatory, the medium of instruction, which might be as a part of national education policy, where our Prime Minister has also very clearly told that, the regional languages have to be promoted more and more. So under that tension, it has been made. And obviously, while making this kind of law, the investment and the development and the economic, even that will be also taken into consideration. Taking that only into consideration, and also the emotions of Kannadigas also taken into consideration, the policy and the law will be formed. It's
no,
not
but that's
that,
where the criticism is, that are we going
law.
to give jobs based on emotions? Because does Karnataka have only Kannadigas? No. It has representatives from across the country. So why not give them a fair chance? Why deprive them of that fair chance just because they're not local?
See, that's what I said. It's not that, only local should get, outsiders should not get. That is not the law. Please do understand. So in a working culture or in a working environment, when they're in a particular city, the local language also should be promoted in their working environment. So keeping that in mind, this is made. It doesn't mean that, there should be some
you
sort
should
of
promote the local language.
made.
Nobody is taking it from the fact that Kannadigas should take pride in the local language. Priority should be given as far as names or signage is concerned. But as far as the job sector, the private sector is concerned, why are you depriving others who are not from Karnataka to not have a fair shot at the job sector? That's the basic question. Why are we mixing pride and a fair opportunity for those who want to get a job?
I'm reiterating again, in addition to the existing skill which they had either in their curriculum or during their work experience in the past to get a job or the talent, so the Kannada will be added, as an additional exposure probably while recruiting. That's all. It doesn't mean that their entire career exposure, what they have done in the past or their education will be not looked into. Only the pure weightage will be given to Kannada. No, that's not the case over here. Okay. It's only an additional, the point which will be seek to a job who the guy who is searching for the job in the state of Karnataka. That's all. So it will not reprieve anybody from getting selected based on their talent or based on their past experience or based on educational qualification.
Okay. I have a slight issue with what you're saying, and I want a clarification on a larger issue. But I want to bring in Lavanya in the conversation as well. Lavanya, the argument that's coming in from the state government is that Karnataka is not going to be the first state to be doing so. States like Haryana, Madhya Pradesh, others have already done so. Other proposals are in the pipeline as well. So why are you singling out and creating politics out of it?
See, I understand the emotions behind this entire move. Like the BJP spokesperson was saying, we are responding to the people's emotions. But we have to look at it as, is it very viable option? Is it the right option? Is it the right thing to do? Like the speaker was saying, there are many ways in which you can develop the language. Kannada language needs support. Kannada language needs to be propagated more. Kannada language or the Kannada and Culture Ministry needs to focus much more on ensuring that Kannada language is protected. But that also means you have to ensure that the citizens or whoever or the youth of Karnataka have the proper skills to compete with the citizens who go across the globe and compete in a very different market. Being very protective of our youth who may or may not have skills to compete with the rest of or rest of the world is not the right option. Upskilling and enhancing their skills is the first option that the government must look at.
Correct. And that's a similar point that Mr. Mohandas Pai was also making, that yes, you want to keep the interest of the locals of the Kannadigas at the center of it, but you should look at other ways of doing so. RQ Padai, I want to bring you in. Keeping the job discussion aside for 1 minute, do you think this is mending of ways for locals and Kannadigas by the Bommai government because of the backlash that they received because of Hindi Diwas?
I think Hindi Diwas is a different question altogether. See, this Kannada issue has been there for a long time, and everybody knows about the Sarojini Maharishi Committee report in 1984, which talked about 100% reservation for Kannadigas in certain category of jobs. But that is no longer relevant now. See, we have moved forward from 80s, and I see the job market is enhanced, and there is the Constitution doesn't provide for this. You see, under the Indian Constitution, every Indian has to live and work in any part of the country. So that is a given. So you can't discriminate against people who don't know Kannada.
Correct.
What if tomorrow Tamil Nadu says only Tamil knowing people will be given preference? Maharashtra says Marathi knowing people will be given preference. So this is going to be against the federal system. And I don't think any straitjacket rules preventing others from getting the jobs or giving preference to the locals will work. The courts will just strike it down.
Yeah.
So instead of that, I think, as Mohandas Bhai was also saying, you need to see that the language develops first. So look at the pathetic state of the Kannada schools. Many of them have been closed down, and people are leaving Kannada medium schools and joining English medium schools. Why is that happening? See, government has to reflect on these things. And, they should incentivize those who are setting up Kannada medium schools, incentivize those who are translating from, other languages, good books. And then, you need to develop the skills that are required, to take up the job. See, you can do that in the government jobs. You can do that in the secretariat, where Kannada is very much required. But you can't force the, private sector to take, people who know Kannada only. So that will not work. So if these employees need an interface with the locals, yes, definitely the companies know, and they will prefer people who know Kannada.
Yeah.
But if it has nothing to do with the language, that cannot be the only criterion or the major criterion for giving jobs.
Yeah, I agree with the point that you're making. Logistically also, a lot of companies would want local hires because they won't want to indulge themselves in relocation charges, so on and so forth. But it shouldn't cross that line where there is discrimination to others who are not from that particular state. Chokwa, this is where I want to bring you in. I find it very difficult to believe that if this proposal actually goes through, why would somebody actually want to invest in a state like Karnataka, which takes a lot of pride in calling itself the IT hub, comparisons being made to Silicon City? Why would companies want to take that risk that if we don't hire locals, we'll actually have a penalty upon us?
Very true. So especially if you look at it from a post-COVID perspective.
Absolutely. Where you already have companies who want to cut down on costs like infrastructure and others, why would they want to indulge themselves in another problem?
Yeah, so the new philosophy is to be closer to where talent is. So we need to create talent and then make companies come forward for the talent. And not just, Kannada is a great concept. In order to develop culture and all those things is absolutely needed. But there is a push and a pull technology, right? So right now it seems to be like, Kannada is being pushed to people. When you push something like that, then people start worrying, because if you look at the Language Enforcement Directorate, that is there in the legislation, enforcement. So no one likes to be in an enforced state. But instead of that, if you made it a draw culture and you created movies for kids to go watch and make the Kannada pride there, learn about Kempagoda, Rani Chennamma, whatever, these are great historic lessons, and which the government should maybe develop movies or something. Because let's not forget, Bangalore is the America of India. So again, I'm trying to reinforce that. Bangalore is the America of India. What is America? America is migrants around the world which have created America.
True.
Bangalore is a set of migrants who have come across and set up Bangalore. So we shouldn't push people. Bangalore has been a magnet, and it should continue to be a magnet of talent across India and across the world.
Correct.
That is the reason why
respond to the point that Chokka is making, and he's actually making a very relevant point, that the identity Karnataka has today is because of the workforce that has been created by migrants from across the country. Won't you be actually tampering the identity and what Karnataka represents, at least as far as the job space is concerned, when this proposal goes through?
Please do understand, it's not only migrants, even the locals. Today Bangalore has more than 40 to 50 unicorns. The most of the promoters of those unicorns and the most of the promoters of the big startups are Kannadigas and locals. So it's not that only migrants have created a brand Bangalore, please. Okay, so don't make that statement. The local Kannadigas are also in the past. Take MD Pai himself, he himself was a Kannadiga who built the empire, who was part of building Infosys. So he himself was a Kannadiga. Come on, so don't make the statement that only because of migrants only Bangalore have built.
But are you denying the fact that migrants haven't contributed? That will be quite an unfortunate statement, because as I said, we take pride in the fact that people from across different parts of the country can actually have a job opportunity. When you say that there will be a penalty for companies, they'll be stripped off of incentives and SOPs, isn't that a bit harsh?
No, absolutely. So don't take my statement around. I was very clear, okay? I was very clear that, the more than migrants, even locals have also contributed too much to the development of Karnataka or Bangalore, okay? So as I said in my comment when the opening of the debate, Kannada will be added as an additional requirement. It's not that, only based on their Kannada curriculum or their Kannada language only the job will be given. Come on. It's not possible for anybody for that matter across India. If I go to Tamil Nadu or go to Maharashtra, only Marathi is that criteria, then it's very difficult for that particular city to survive. That kind of law we are not making over here. But at the same time, I'm very much surprised that the Congress spokesperson, where own leaders openly supported in favor of Sarojini Mahishi report implementation in the Karnataka, and coming here and speaking only about the skill development.
Lavanya, I'm running out of time, so I'll give you the final word. The criticism coming in is that today, just because you're in the opposition, you're actually criticizing this move.
Sarojini Mahishi report also says people who have stayed in Karnataka for 10 years are considered as Kannadigas. I think you have forgotten that very important point. Having said that, I will reiterate, when you start bringing out policies like this, it challenges the very idea of what this nation should be, and where you're challenging people's right to choose where they can work and what work they can choose. So if you are denying opportunities for people who come from other parts of the world or India to Bangalore, then what happens to Bangaloreans? What happens if every state starts saying the same thing? What happens if every nation starts saying, hey, you know what, the jobs first priority goes only to our people? The priority should be right now enhancing the skills of youth in Karnataka, ensuring that the Kannada schools have enough funding to ensure that the Kannada schools are run properly, not shut down. Look at the number of schools that are being shut down. Look at the scam that is happening in the teachers' recruitment. Look at the number of schools.
So I think the question that the opposition is raising is, will this in fact open a Pandora's box? Will we actually see many other states follow suit as well? Unfortunately, completely run out of time. I appreciate all our guests joining us this evening. We're quickly shifting our focus to some other updates coming in. We're now understanding the Punjab governor has cancelled the special Vidhan Sabha session tomorrow. The session was called by Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann to prove his majority. The session was on for tomorrow but now has been cancelled. I believe my colleague Nipinder Brar is now joining us on the broadcast. Nipinder, और क्या details हैं? क्यों cancel हुआ ये session?
देखिए, संवैधानिक तौर पर इसे कहीं ना कहीं इस पर सवाल खड़े किए जा रहे थे। पंजाब के कुछ नेता, जो विपक्षी नेता थे, उन्होंने पहले ही कहा था कि पंजाब सरकार कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन लाने के लिए नहीं बुला सकती, क्योंकि इसे सीधे तौर पर जो पॉलिटिक्स करने का इल्जाम लगाया जा रहा था, और क्योंकि एक दिन के सेशन पर सीधा 1 करोड़ के करीब यानी 80-50 से लेकर के सभी विपक्षी हमला कर रहे थे, और कुछ विपक्षी नेताओं ने इसे लेकर के मुद्दा भी उठाया था। और देखिए, सभी चीजों को ध्यान में रखते हुए, टेक्निकली टर्म्स देखते हुए कि कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन लाने के लिए किस तरह से सदन बुलाया जा सकता है, टेक्निकल टर्म को देखते हुए पंजाब के गवर्नर ने जो परमिशन दी थी, जो कॉल किया था सेशन, उसे उन्होंने विड्रॉ कर लिया है, यानी कि सेशन को नहीं बुला सकती। उन्होंने कहा है कि साफ तौर पर इसका प्रावधान नहीं है, क्योंकि रूटीन में जैसी सरकार ने भेजा, मुख्यमंत्री ने अपनी कैबिनेट में पास करके भेजा, तो वो उसे एक्सेप्ट कर लिया गया था, कॉल दे दिया गया था कल के लिए।
So the update coming in is that the Punjab governor in fact has cancelled that special Vidhan Sabha session tomorrow. Napinder, thanks a lot for getting us all those details. With that, it's a wrap from my side. Plain Speak with Shivani is up next.